if you need anything else, but yeah, okay, you have a mic. So we need to land things. We need to land things. 10, 15 years ago, when we started talking about cloud in the field of companies, felt something far away from us. Security was the disturbing element of the model at that time, and now I believe we are undergoing an accelerated process, accelerated by the pandemic, of a transformation of business and the execution of this kind of business and new infrastructures. Before giving the floor to the speakers, let me share with you two or three sentences. First of all, when we talk about cloud challenges and advantages, the question is, why are we going towards this? 75% of companies, this is 77% of companies, this is an Accenture survey, have part of their business in the field of cloud. So we reduce cost, it's scalable, it's faster, it's more sustainable in time. But the reality speaks something different. Many of these challenges require knowledge and skills that are non-existing. Existing tools must be transformed, which is not easy because we need to change our mindset and our environment. We continue working in silos. It's very difficult for companies to separate collective efficiencies, and there are many manual processes. So one of the challenges of the cloud is be part of the transformation. We are here with 3 cybersecurity officers, which have an important vision. What is the value of technology when we need to support the transformation of businesses? I don't know if you're part of the 77% of companies that are moving towards clouds, and I would like to know, and we'll start with Fanny, what is the experience that Codere has today? The reality of the world of cloud, the value it contributes with, and what are the challenges for the future? Well, okay, I think this is most companies are in now. Digital transformation after the pandemic. And it's true the cloud, as mentioned, has been here for more than 10 years, but now we are in a phase of acceleration of the process. We accompany companies, and I say accompany them in corporate structure, in a unified management system. Cyber business, the cyber sector, the business sector must work together to make this journey towards cloud possible. Codere is doing something important, accelerating everything. Because, as you know, we have SAP services, as many other companies. We have many other services in the cloud. We have more than 5 services in the cloud, and we use public and private clouds to lift very relevant business services. This is what many companies are doing, actually. So our journey to cloud strategy, in this journey, the cyber sector is a must. Cybersecurity must be part of an integral management strategy. This is what we're doing now, actually. I think in strategic sector, as it is the financial and energy sector, they might have other cases, but BBVA, which is a pioneer bank in cloud services, so they decided to transfer corporate mail to this kind of platform, and I'm sure the processes they are changing now, supporting the regulator, will have to combine infrastructure legacy infrastructure and the transformation into these kind of more flexible, agile structures. So what is your experience, Fernando? Changes, transformation, and challenges for the future. Thank you, Javier. Mainly, as you mentioned, we started more than 10 years ago with a learning process that was very hard, adapting our corporate mail and tools to Google when Google was not what it is now in terms of business power. And in this journey, we've learned 2 very important things. First of all, as you mentioned, it's not a migration process, but a coexistence process. We have a footprint of around 20 countries. Legacy technology is not a technology you can take away. In the banking sector, where clients operate, these technologies will always be there. So the challenge was combine worlds. And from a traditional point of view, as it is the case in the legacy world, oriented to protect specific environments, this perimeter philosophy, this philosophy does not exist in the cloud. So we were able to come up with a hybrid model. Security is handled in a similar way supported by tools that are different. In the cloud, suppliers give you the technology. So from a security point of view, movement to cloud entails them providing with securities in a AWS module. The security capacities are endless. I don't know how they are able to manage so many portfolios of solutions, and this is a challenge we had to face. Today, this is something standard. The model is standardized, and we are thinking about the next step to take. From a security point of view, the next step to take is to invest and to adopt security paradigms in cloud to the rest of the environment. As Javier mentioned, this is more sustainable. The profile is going to be different in terms of operations of security models and workload models. So when security is embedded in the cloud, but in the legacy environment, things were not this way. So once we understood how important it is to have security embedded in the solutions, we wanted to invest in the other part. So it's a back and forth movement, but this allowed us to be scalable enough and to provide services to our customers, especially after the pandemic, where digitalization obliges us to be available 100% all the time. Industry. Javier Quintela is an expert in the Repsol environment business. He's been working as a global CIO for more than 10 years. So a company that has been in this digital transformation for more than 10 years, especially in this energy crisis moment. He can explain what the situation is like, digitalization and the transformation of productive models especially. No, we cannot hear you, Javier.
Good morning. Thank you, Xavier. We at Repsol
varios años después hemos hecho un esfuerzo de digitalización.
We have made a considerable digitalization effort in the last 4 years with very powerful results, and we are only now starting our second massive digitalization effort across the company. This is not a precise data, but I would say that right now about between 70 and 80% of our information systems, business processes, etc., are in the cloud in the different areas and ways, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, etc. Beyond that figure, our control systems are still on-premise, and I am sure that in time we will see a progressive move towards the cloud. So today the cloud is a massive reality across the company. Any new project that starts in the company starts on the cloud, and it is actually the exception to have any project starting on on-premise infrastructures. So this is already a reality. From cybersecurity years back, well, At the beginning, there was certain resistance to change, as with any technological concept, but we very quickly identified that the cloud was here to stay. It actually gives us a certain competitive edge and also a very strong scalability capacity, and it is completely integrated with our cloud processes. And we have made also a great effort, and we have a clear idea that in order to protect the cloud, you have to be on the cloud. It wouldn't make sense to have the company on the cloud and the security on premise. So in the last few years, we have made a considerable effort to take security to the cloud, which is where it is right now. And as I said in this very venue a couple of years ago, for me, technology is safe and secure. I have no doubt about this, but you have to look very carefully at the actual business model around the cloud technology, with delegated operations, the product model, etc. So there is a whole context, a whole working context that's very quickly, very accelerated, very flexible, and unless we introduce the security from the design stage, then it will be very difficult to try to manage this later on. I find this very helpful. One of the key elements in the world of cloud is the fact that it has to be a facilitator for business. It has to really help us simplify our processes, ensure resilience to issues and threats. I work in Accenter, and in Accenter, 98% of our business is on the cloud. So we have increased and improved the setup by 70%. We have increased the cost reduction, and we have generated a guarantee model as part of the high management level. We have lived in the sector of security by trying to secure in what had already been built, and now we have the opportunity to change and transform businesses thanks to the new technological models, and the aim should be to put security in the center, in the core of everything we do. So you represent 3 large companies, you are making your way towards the cloud, and what have your challenges been? What was your participation like? And to what extent you were able to be part of that process? Fanny. Yes. Security has not always necessarily been from the onset. This is a role that we have taken up as we started working with the IT and infrastructure team in order to start designing and finding those loopholes in the cybersecurity infrastructure. This is true, but once we have started working on a unified management model, this has allowed us to be part of this from the onset with new projects and initiatives. It is true that the organization or the business in this regard goes at a very fast pace, at a pace where, as my colleague from Repsol just mentioned, if we fail to define security from the design stage, we are going to lag behind in that race. And we can see this with the different incidents in cloud services, services provided to large corporations. This is something that is done, and that happens due to misconfiguration. Maybe because a technician thought about putting some sensible and sensitive information in a bucket, and they left that open. So these simple processes are where the organization and the business and the deployers, even though you may have the design processes in place, everything moves very fast. And this is where it is really important to look at the solutions and to make the most of those solutions. In this particular case, native security solutions, as my colleagues have already mentioned, which allow us to have real-time visibility. But to me, the main challenge is actually that, is to be fast enough and to ensure that everything is fully secured and that the business actually goes at the speed it should go. And on top of that, we have to mention that we are talking about relatively new environments, and there are companies that think, well, I already have my data center, I know how to manage my security, and they try to implement that management model on the cloud, and of course, it is not the same. And on top of that, we need to add problems related to the resources. In other words, we need specialists, we need specialized tools. And added to this, we have the cloud, mixed hybrid environments, SAS services, different infrastructures we need to manage, and as well as making the most profit from this, we need to see how to simplify all this in a more centralized or decentralized manner. There are solutions that allow for all this, so I think we should be focusing on the resources and to keep pace with the actual movement of the business itself. It is true that for cybersecurity is a great opportunity because everything we upload now, we can do it right. And one of our main struggles in the past decade was to manage the actual hardware, to revise that everything was right, and now we can work with templates. So that takes a lot of pain and a lot of headache of our work. There are solutions that allows you to manage your level of security, and I think this is something we need to leverage. Yes, well, going a step further, I would like to say that there are sectors that are more regulated. So transformation is not just about thinking about the business, but also to comply with all these requirements, which are legal requirements most times. And as part of these challenges, when it comes to the financial sector, for instance, we know that there are certain rules and regulations that do affect us when it comes to the evaluation of the ecosystems. What are the challenges in that regard, Fernando, when it comes to understanding what a sector can provide to you, the platforms, and when you take it in your own businesses? Well, this is somewhere where we are reaching the perfect storm. And I would try to explain. As a business, we try to be as efficient as possible. We want to escalate, and that's why the cloud is a possibility and a new potential. Being located in Europe, the challenge is the fact that the European community has been lagging behind when it comes to regulation. What happened is that the European Union started to provide certain guidelines which have derived into a directive which is known as DORA, the Operating Resilience Directive. What it aims to do is to ensure that banks apply and work with cloud-based businesses, but offering their clients and customers the best guarantee in that any possible problem does not have an impact on their security. Basically, if we do not adapt to this new regulation, there will be sanctions. There will be sanctions in about 3 years' time. What is the change that this regulation actually requests from us? Well, we, through our third parties, through the cloud, we facilitate the European regulator to be able to check how these third parties are functioning in a systemic manner. So what we are really is a passerelle. We have challenges that are threefold. We need to ensure that our authentication and security models, the traditional security models, are complied with and guaranteed and ensured through the cloud. And on the other hand, we need to be able to recover ourselves and to be ready in case that any of these providers actually do have a failure. I'm talking about companies such as Google, Amazon, etc. And this is where the relevant change really is. We are currently using the cloud as a provider, as a technological provider, to make our lives easier. Now we are talking cloud that's more like an operational back office. And the others that are changing their paradigm are the actual cloud providers, because they are generalist technological providers, but now they also need to adapt to new regulations that they were not ready for before. So this is a change of a paradigm that's really relevant, and we are exploring and seeing where this is going, because we still have a long way to go. We are reaching the end point. And before we go and we break for lunch, one last question to Javier. Let's try to understand the real risks we have ahead of us. Multi-cloud, all these elements, misconfigurations, not to have the adequate resources, risks in the supply chain, risks related to the support of the business infrastructure that I am creating. What does this entail for a company like Repsol, which has a business model that's really interesting and a company that's trying to generate a new life cycle? What are the main risks you have beyond the fact that an incident in the cloud has an average cost of 150 million, which is all fine, but the risk may be the inability to transform the business because of a certain lack of confidence in the sector? What are the risks that you can see in this environment, Javier? Yes, since we are short of time, if I had to highlight one single risk that we are living, the pace at which technology is evolving, and particularly the speed that the actual attackers are evolving, these are the ones that are setting the pace and who will no doubt in using any resources to attack. For me, the main thing is, the main challenge, therefore, is the talent, trying to understand what the tactics are, the procedures, who wants to attack you in the cloud world, which is really passionating and complex, and how to defend ourselves from amidst all of these cloud-based technologies, how to manage to protect our businesses against these attacks. So finding the right profiles, the right suppliers that put the attackers in the first place. Sometimes we make big investments, but really when it comes to the real security, we don't do very much. So I would actually like to mention this first risk. So highlighting talent, yes, it is the talent that actually is going to have an impact on all the rest. Just a very quick word on why the CISO is so convinced that the future lies in the cloud. Well, because it is what it is. Unless we have good management of cybersecurity, this is going to affect ultimately the balance sheet. We need to be there, and we have to be there. Simple security. Simple security? Yeah, simplifying? Yes, this is one of the challenges that we have ahead of us, to simplify, and this is one of the advantages of cloud. Competitive edge, yes. Competitive edge. Well, I see many known faces, many familiar faces, and I think there is an additional element, the public-private partnership. I think after 2 years of pandemic, we are all back here in this venue, and if we are able to cooperate at a time like this, then cybersecurity in Spain will be a referent across Europe and beyond. Thank you, Fanny. Thank you, Javier. Thank you, Fernando.